The storm had been growing since sunset, rolling in from the Atlantic like a living thing. Rain slammed against the clinic's old windows. Every flash of lightning showed the dark trees bending under the wind. Dr. Aria Solano switched off the last exam room light and sighed. She had been on her feet for 15 hours, treating everything from a farmer's broken wrist to a dog that had swallowed a fishing hook. She was ready to lock up and go home to silence, tea, and maybe 3 hours of sleep before sunrise. Then someone pounded on the front door. Not a normal knock. It was heavy, frantic, each hit echoing through the hallway. She froze halfway to the light switch. No one came out this far at night. Her small clinic sat at the edge of town, surrounded by forest and fog. The pounding came again. "Help, please." The voice was hoarse, almost drowned by the wind. Aria's pulse jumped. She moved toward the door, heart hammering. Through the frosted glass she could see a tall shape, swaying unsteadily. "We're closed," she called out. "The hospital's 20 minutes away." A pause. Then softer, "They'll find me there. Please, just open the door." The words weren't a demand. They were desperation. She hesitated only a second longer before unlocking the deadbolt. The moment she pulled the door open, the storm pushed a wall of rain inside, and with it, a man. He almost collapsed against her. Sit down right here," she ordered automatically, guiding him toward the exam table. He was enormous, maybe 6'3", broad-shouldered, half-drenched in blood and rainwater. "I don't," he tried to speak but grimaced instead, gripping his left shoulder. "Don't talk," she said, already grabbing a towel. "You're bleeding." "Yeah," he muttered. Noticed. Even through fear, she heard the humor. Dry, faint, but there. His head dropped as she peeled back the soaked jacket and shirt. Beneath the fabric, blood had spread like ink across pale skin. "That's a bullet wound," she whispered. "Through and through," he said through clenched teeth. "I checked. Missed anything vital." "Lucky you." Her hands went on autopilot. Gloves, antiseptic, gauze, scissors. She'd treated worse in emergency rooms before, but never alone, never in a clinic meant for sprained ankles and cats with allergies. "What's your name?" she asked as she cleaned the wound. "Cashin." "Cashin what?" He hesitated. "Vale." The name sent a jolt through her memory. She had heard it once on the news years ago, connected to a man suspected of running something dangerous in the city, a ghost who'd vanished after a gang war. But that couldn't be this man. "Hold still," she said, pretending the name meant nothing. "This will sting." He didn't even flinch when the antiseptic hit raw flesh. His eyes, gray, sharp as winter ice, watched her instead. "You're calm," he said quietly. "Most people would have run." "I'm a doctor. I run when a dog bites, not when a man bleeds." Something flickered in his expression. Respect, maybe. Outside, thunder rolled again. Aria's dog Ghost barked from the back room, low and uncertain. Cashin looked toward the sound, his posture tightening. "He's friendly," she said quickly. "Usually." "Good," Cashin murmured, eyes still on the hallway. "You should keep him close." "Why?" He didn't answer. When she finished cleaning the wound, she said, "You need stitches." "A lot of them." "Do it." "You sure?" "No anesthetic." "I've had worse." She believed him. As she worked, she felt the heat radiating from his skin and saw old scars crossing his ribs, thin white lines like a map of past pain. He didn't even breathe hard until she tied the final knot. "That'll hold," she said, stepping back. "You should be at a hospital." "No hospitals." "Because they will find you?" He met her eyes. "Yes." "And who exactly is they?" "The kind you don't want knocking next." That wasn't much of an answer, but it was enough to send a chill through her. She fetched a blanket and draped it over his shoulders. "You can rest on the couch in the waiting room until the rain stops. In the morning, you're going to tell me who's after you." He managed a faint, tired smile. "Doctor's orders?" "Exactly." When she turned to lock the door again, she could feel his gaze follow her, steady, unreadable. Outside, the storm howled louder, as if warning her that letting him in had changed everything. Arya didn't sleep. She sat in her small office behind the exam room, staring at the old clock on the wall. Midnight. 1. 2. The wind still roared, and the roof creaked with every gust. Every so often she heard movement from the waiting area. Cashin shifting, a low cough, the faint clink of the coffee mug she'd left for him. Nothing threatening, just reminders that a stranger, an injured, dangerous stranger, was only one thin wall away. At 3 in the morning, she finally stood. "You're insane," she muttered to herself, grabbing the first aid kit again. When she stepped into the waiting room, she found Cashin awake, sitting on the couch. The blanket had fallen to the floor. He'd cleaned up the blood from the floor himself. Her mop leaned against the wall. "You shouldn't be moving," she said. "I don't like leaving a mess," he replied. His voice was deeper now, steadier, though exhaustion shadowed it. "You need rest." He tilted his head. "So do you." She folded her arms. "I'll sleep when my unexpected houseguest stops bleeding through his bandage." Something like a smile tugged at his mouth. "You always talk like that?" "Like what?" "Like you're scolding the storm." She didn't answer. Instead, she sat across from him and checked the wound again. The stitches held, but fever was building. "You're running hot," she said. "Do you know what that means?" "I'm human after all." "It means infection." She reached for antibiotics and painkillers. "Take these." He studied her before swallowing the pills. "You're not afraid of me." "I didn't say that." "But you're still here. Because you'd die otherwise." He leaned back, eyes half closed. "Maybe that wouldn't be so bad." The words slipped out like truth, heavy and quiet. Arya frowned. "Then why come here at all?" He opened his eyes again. "Instinct." That answer gave her nothing, yet it felt honest. A moment passed in silence, broken only by the storm beating against the windows. Finally she asked, "Cashin Vale. That's your real name?" "Yes." "The same Cashin Vale people used to talk about on the news?" "Yes." "You disappeared." "I had to." "Why?" He looked at her, expression unreadable. "Because sometimes disappearing is the only way to stay alive." Arya's breath caught. There was something behind those words, a story full of blood and betrayal, but she didn't push. "Not yet." She stood. "You can sleep here tonight. In the morning, you go. Understood?" He nodded once. "Understood." She turned to leave but stopped when he spoke again. "Thank you, Dr. Solano." "No one's called me that in a long time," she said softly. "Most people here just call me Arya." "Then thank you, Arya." Her name in his mouth sounded different, gentler somehow. She woke to the smell of coffee. For a moment, she thought she'd dreamed everything. The storm, the stranger, the blood. But when she stepped into the clinic's small kitchen, Cashin was there, moving quietly despite his injury. "You should be lying down," she said, startled. "I was. Then I got bored." He poured coffee into 2 mugs. "You only had instant." "Tragic." "You're bleeding and criticizing my groceries." He gave a small shrug. "Habit. Habit. Fixing things when I can't fix myself." She didn't know what to do with that, so she took the cup he offered. Their fingers brushed, just a second, but enough for her to notice how warm his skin was. He leaned against the counter, studying her the way some people study puzzles. "You live alone?" "With my dog." "Why?" "You should lock your doors better." "That from the man who broke into my peace and quiet?" He smirked faintly. "Fair." She sipped her coffee. "What now?" "You plan to walk out into the rain and vanish again." "I need a car, then yes." "You're in no condition to travel." "I've been worse." "Stop saying that," she snapped. "That's not an answer." His gray eyes softened. "You care too much, doctor." It's my job. No, he said quietly. It's who you are. The honesty in his tone made her throat tighten. She turned away, pretending to fuss with the coffee tin. When she faced him again, she noticed something else, a scar running from his temple down to his jaw, thin and pale. Who did that? She asked before she could stop herself. He touched it absently. Someone who thought they'd won. And did they? I'm still here. There it was again, that mix of calm and violence, like a storm contained inside skin. Before she could reply, Ghost padded in from the hall, tail low. The dog circled Cashin once, sniffing cautiously. Easy, boy, Arya warned. Ghost stopped, then sat at Cashin's feet, resting his head on one knee. Arya blinked. He's never done that with a stranger. Cashin's hand moved automatically to scratch behind the dog's ears. Smart animal. Apparently, he thinks you're safe. Then maybe you should trust his judgment. She wanted to laugh but couldn't. Maybe. A loud crack interrupted them, a car door slamming outside. Both froze. Cashin's expression changed instantly. Calm vanished, replaced by focus. He set his cup down soundlessly. Who else knows you're here? He asked. No one. Then stay behind me. Cashin. Now, Arya. The command in his voice made her obey without thinking. They moved toward the front window. Through the rain-blurred glass, she saw headlights parked halfway down the drive, off, but the shape of a vehicle was unmistakable. Maybe it's a passerby, she whispered. In this storm? No. He pulled a small handgun from under his jacket. She hadn't even known he had one. Wait, you can't. He shook his head once. If they come to the door, let me talk. What if they're the police? They're not. Another knock, softer this time. 3 measured taps. Arya's heart pounded. Cashin's voice dropped to a whisper. Stay calm. If they ask for me, you've never seen me. She swallowed hard and stepped toward the door. Who is it? She called. No answer. Only the wind. She turned back, but Cashin was gone, melted into the shadows near the hallway. The knock came again. Arya pressed a hand against her chest, forcing herself to breathe. We're closed, she shouted. Silence. Then the sound of tires crunching gravel as the vehicle pulled away. Cashin appeared beside her, ghost quiet. They were checking, he said. Seeing if I came here. Who are they? People who believe killing me solves all their problems. She stared at him. And now they think you're here. He nodded once. Which means you're not safe anymore. The fear she'd been holding back finally hit. I should have never opened that door. His eyes met hers, regretful, steady. Maybe. But if you hadn't, I'd be dead. And now what? We wait for them to come back. He looked out the window at the disappearing headlights. No. We leave before they do. You're in no condition. Neither are you to argue. For a second, anger flared in her, burning away the fear. You don't get to order me around, Cashin. This is my clinic. My life. He stepped closer, his presence filling the small space. And both are in danger because of me. Let me fix that. Something in his tone, firm but not cruel, made her realize he wasn't threatening her. He was trying to protect her. She exhaled slowly. Fine. But you explain everything on the way. He gave a single nod. Deal. Outside, the rain showed no sign of stopping. It beat against the glass in relentless rhythm as Arya packed a medical bag and Cashin checked the gun with practiced ease. The storm had brought him to her door. Now it would carry them both into something far darker. The storm finally weakened by dawn. Gray light seeped through the windows as Arya finished stuffing medical supplies into a duffel bag. She could still hear Cashin's low voice from the front room, speaking quietly into a phone she hadn't noticed before. No. Leave the city routes open, he said. Yes, I'm alive. Tell Nico to hold position until he hears from me. A pause. If anyone tracks the signal, we burn everything. He hung up before she could pretend she wasn't listening. Arya zipped her bag shut harder than necessary. So you do have people. And phones. And enemies. Cashin turned. He looked steadier this morning, though pale. His hair was still damp, and the clean shirt she'd lent him, one that belonged to her late father, stretched tight across his shoulders. Everyone has enemies, he said calmly. Not the kind that shoot through people. He gave a small smile, the kind that didn't reach his eyes. I told you my name last night. You know what that means. It means you lied about being some poor stranger. It means you were safer not knowing. Arya stared at him. Cashin Vale. I've heard that name before. He didn't deny it. You were on the news years ago, she continued. They said you ran something, a family, an organization. They said a lot of things, he interrupted. Most of them were true. She took a step back. So I should believe I spent the night next to a criminal? He met her gaze evenly. You spent the night saving a man's life. The rest of it, you can decide later. Do you even hear yourself? She asked, her voice shaking between anger and disbelief. You talk like this is normal. For me, it is. Arya rubbed her temples. You should go before my neighbors see a half-dead mob boss leaving my clinic. That's the plan, Cashin said. But you're coming with me. She laughed without humor. No, I'm not. They know you helped me, he said quietly. My enemies. They'll come here to confirm it. And when they do, they won't ask questions first. I can handle myself. You can handle wounds and animals, he said. Not men who burn houses to the ground. The way he said it, not as a threat but a fact, stole her breath. Arya crossed her arms, gripping herself. I can't just leave. This clinic, my dog. I already told Nico to send a car for Ghost, Cashin said. He'll be safe. She blinked. You gave orders about my dog? I gave orders to keep you alive, he replied simply. I don't ask for trust, Arya. I ask for a chance to earn it. She stared at him, torn between fury and fear. And if I say no? Cashin's expression didn't change. Then I stay here until you do. There was no malice in his tone, only finality. Outside, thunder rumbled again, low and distant. Arya's shoulders sagged. You're impossible. He gave a faint smile. I've been told that before. They left the clinic an hour later. The rain had softened into mist, the world gray and wet. Arya locked the door and hesitated, the key cold in her hand. She looked back once at the small building, her safe place, her entire life's work. Cashin stood beside her, watching the tree line. You'll come back, he said quietly. If you want to. How comforting, she muttered. A black SUV appeared from the forest road, headlights cutting through the fog. A man stepped out, tall, sharp-featured, wearing a dark coat that probably cost more than her car. Nico, Cashin greeted him. Boss, the man said, giving a quick nod before his eyes shifted to Arya. So this is the doctor. Don't start, Cashin warned. I wasn't going to, Nico replied with a faint smirk. But she looks exactly like the type who'd open a door in the middle of a storm. Arya crossed her arms. And what type is that? The kind with a heart. Dangerous habit in our world. She climbed into the car without replying. Ghost jumped in after her, curling up instantly as if he'd been doing this for years. Cashin slid in beside her, careful of his shoulder. Seat belt. She fastened it but glared. I'm not your employee. Good, he said. My employees follow orders. You'd argue too much. Despite herself, she almost smiled. The SUV rolled onto the road. The small town of Windmere Bay disappeared behind them, swallowed by fog and trees. Where exactly are we going? She asked after 10 minutes of silence. My property, Cashin said. It's safe. That word doesn't mean much coming from you. He looked at her, the corner of his mouth twitching. It means no one gets close without permission. Nico drove in silence, eyes on the road. 2 more black vehicles followed in the mist, keeping distance but close enough to see. Arya watched them through the window. You travel with a convoy. That's subtle. Alive is better than subtle, Cashin said. Doesn't this all feel exhausting? She asked. Living like you're at war every second? It is war, Doctor, Nico said from the front. You just walked into the middle of it. Arya sat back, silent for a while. The trees blurred into endless green and gray. Cashin spoke again, quieter. I didn't want you part of this. You were supposed to patch me up, go home, forget my name. Well, she said dryly, we both failed at something last night. He laughed softly, the sound rough but real. The rest of the drive was quiet, heavy with things unsaid, the hum of the engine, the whisper of rain, and Ghost's slow breathing beside her. 2 hours later, the road narrowed and began to climb. They passed tall gates guarded by cameras and stone walls. Arya stared out, wide-eyed. This is your property? She asked. Cashin nodded once. Home. For now. The SUV stopped in a circular driveway in front of a sprawling house of glass and dark wood. It didn't look like a criminal's hideout. It looked like a modern fortress pretending to be a home. Before Arya could get out, the front door opened. A woman stepped out, tall, elegant, her black hair pulled into a sleek ponytail. Cashin, she said. Her voice was calm but carried power. You brought company. Isolde, he greeted. This is Dr. Arya Solano. She saved my life. Isolde's eyes scanned Arya from head to toe. A doctor. A good one, Cashin said. She better be, considering what this cost us. Isolde, he warned softly. Arya stood her ground. I didn't ask to be part of this. The woman's cold gaze flicked toward her again, then softened slightly. Then I suppose you have my thanks. Cashin motioned to the house. Come inside. You'll rest here tonight. Arya hesitated, glancing at the woods beyond the gate. Escape looked impossible. Do I really have a choice? Cashin gave a small nod. Everyone has a choice. But only one keeps you breathing. She exhaled slowly and followed him inside. The house was stunning. Marble floors, wide hallways, the faint smell of cedar and coffee. But everything felt too quiet, too controlled. Cashin led her through a living area where armed guards stood at discreet corners. Isolde walked beside them, speaking into an earpiece in low, efficient tones. Security rotation every 2 hours. I want drones watching the southern ridge, she ordered. Arya whispered to Cashin. She runs the place. She runs everything except me, he said, though it sounded like an old argument. Isolde glanced back. Guest room for the doctor? West wing, Cashin replied. Next to mine. Of course. Arya looked between them. You talk like generals. Cashin smiled faintly. That's not too far from the truth. The guest room was larger than her entire apartment. Soft bed, a fireplace, a wall of windows showing the mountains beyond. She stood near the window while Ghost sniffed around the carpet. The quiet felt unnatural. Cashin lingered at the door. You can rest. The house is secure. I'm sure you say that to everyone you kidnap. I didn't kidnap you, he said patiently. I rescued you from being killed because you were kind to the wrong man. Feels about the same, she muttered. He studied her, then smiled slightly. You talk more when you're nervous. And you smile more when you're lying. The smile faded. You think I'm lying about keeping you safe? I think you're used to people doing what you want. His voice dropped. Not you. Something in the way he said it made her chest tighten. Arya looked away, focusing on Ghost. He likes you, she said. That's rare. The dog had already settled by Cashin's feet, tail thumping once. He has good instincts, Cashin said softly, crouching to scratch behind Ghost's ears. The movement made him wince, pain flashing briefly in his face. "You shouldn't move that arm," she said. "I'm fine." "That's not an answer." "I noticed you say that a lot," he replied, standing. "You ask questions you already know the answers to. It's called being a doctor. It's called being stubborn." She glared at him, but he was already turning toward the door. "Get some rest. Breakfast at 8. Isolde will want to brief you." "Brief me? I'm not one of your soldiers." "You're under my roof," he said, pausing. "That makes you part of my world, whether you like it or not." When he left, the silence felt heavier. Arya sat on the bed, staring at the fire. Ghost padded over and rested his head on her knee. "What did we walk into, boy?" she whispered. The dog didn't move, only stared at the door as if waiting for Cashin to return. Morning light spilled through the windows when Arya woke. The rain had stopped, replaced by fog that made the mountains look like something out of a dream. A knock sounded on the door. "Come in," she said. Isolde entered, holding a tablet. "Cashin's in a meeting. He asked me to speak with you." "I didn't realize I needed a meeting." Isolde ignored the tone. "Your name and location are already known to our enemies. Until this conflict ends, you'll stay here under protection." "You say that like it's an order." "It's a necessity." "I'm not part of this war," Arya said firmly. Isolde's gaze sharpened. "You are now. You kept my brother alive. That makes you leverage." Arya's stomach twisted. "So you're saying I'm a hostage?" "I'm saying you're under guard." "That's the same thing." Isolde sighed. "You think in black and white. Cashin doesn't have that luxury." Arya met her eyes. "And you? Do you?" For a moment, the woman's expression softened. "No, not anymore." She set the tablet on the desk. "You'll be given access to the medical wing downstairs. It might help you feel less trapped." When she left, Arya exhaled shakily. Ghost looked up from the rug as if to ask if she was all right. "I'm fine," she said, though she didn't believe it. Later that afternoon, she wandered through the house until she found the glass hallway leading to an indoor garden. Cashin was there, standing among the greenery, sunlight washing over him. He turned when he heard her. "Couldn't sleep. Couldn't relax," she admitted. "Too many guards. Too much silence." He nodded. "Silence can be louder than noise." Arya crossed her arms. "Your sister told me I'm leverage." "She's blunt. She's right." He didn't deny it. "If it helps, I'd die before I let anyone use you." "That's not comforting." "It's not meant to be." She stared at him for a long moment. "You really believe everything is a fight, don't you?" He met her eyes. "It keeps people alive." "And what about you? Who keeps you alive, Cashin?" He gave a tired smile. "You did." Something warm and painful stirred in her chest. "I didn't save you for this," she said softly. "I know." He stepped closer, stopping just near enough for her to feel his presence. "But you did save me." For a moment, neither spoke. The air felt thick, charged, a strange quiet in the middle of danger. Then a voice echoed from the hallway. "Boss." Nico appeared, urgency in his tone. "You need to see this." Cashin straightened instantly. "What is it?" Movement on the southern cameras. 3 vehicles. No insignia. Arya's heart jumped. "They found us." "Maybe," Cashin said. He turned to her. "Go to your room. Lock the door until I say otherwise." "I'm not hiding." "Arya." His tone left no space for argument. "Please." The word please made her stop. He left with Nico, his posture shifting from human to commander in a blink. Arya watched him disappear down the corridor, her heart pounding for reasons she didn't want to name. Ghost pressed against her leg, growling softly toward the window. "I know," she whispered. Something's coming. The fog had thickened by evening. The forest around the Vale estate looked like a sea of ghosts. Arya stood near the window of her room, watching the mist coil around the trees. The rain had returned, steady and cold. She couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Every sound, the creak of wood, the tap of water on glass, made her flinch. Ghost lifted his head once, ears twitching, then settled again. Even the dog seemed uneasy. Cashin hadn't returned since Nico's urgent call that afternoon. Arya had tried to read a book from the shelf by the fireplace, but her mind wouldn't focus. Her world had flipped so quickly. One night she was patching up farm injuries. Now she was hidden inside a criminal's fortress, surrounded by guards with guns. She finally gave up trying to read and opened the door. The hallway was quiet except for the rain against the windows. She followed the faint sound of voices toward the study. Cashin stood inside, leaning over a table scattered with maps and photographs. Nico was beside him, pointing to one image with a gloved finger. Isolde paced behind them, her heels clicking softly. They came close, Nico said. Too close. 3 unmarked vehicles, no license plates. We found tire tracks near the southern ridge. Vorin's men, Isolde asked. Could be. Or one of the minor families testing us, Cashin said, rubbing his temple. Either way, we can't stay still. Arya cleared her throat at the doorway. Excuse me. All 3 heads turned. Cashin straightened, surprise softening his hard expression. You shouldn't be wandering around. I couldn't sleep, she said. And eavesdropping is better than staring at a ceiling. Isolde's lips curved faintly. You're honest. I'll give you that. Cashin gestured toward a chair. Sit. Since you're already here. Arya crossed the room carefully, eyes scanning the maps. You're planning to move again? Cashin nodded. Just precautions. Meaning you think we're about to be attacked? Meaning I like to be ready if we are, he said. Arya folded her arms. How long will this go on? You can't hide forever. Until the man behind this is gone, he said simply. Vorin, she guessed. Cashin's eyes flickered to her, impressed. You pay attention. I'm a doctor, she said. We notice details. Isolde interrupted quietly. Vorin wants him dead. He wants everything that belongs to him, including this house. And me? Arya asked before she could stop herself. Isolde hesitated. Your leverage. Cashin shot her a look. Enough. No, Arya said, voice sharp. She's right. That's why you brought me here, to keep me close so no one else could use me. Cashin's jaw tightened. I brought you here because I didn't want you to die in that clinic. Convenient that it serves both reasons. For a moment they stared at each other, the storm rattling the windows behind them. Finally Cashin said softly, You're angry. You have every right. But being angry won't change what's coming. She wanted to argue, to tell him she didn't belong in his bloody chess game, but the exhaustion in his voice stopped her. He looked older suddenly, worn down. Isolde broke the silence. Dinner's in an hour, she said, stepping away. Try not to fight before then. It upsets the staff. Nico smirked, gathering the maps. And the dog. The dog hates tension. Cashin's mouth twitched, almost a smile. Go check the cameras again, he told him. When they were alone, Arya sank into the chair. You should rest, she said. Your wound's still healing. So is your patience, Cashin replied lightly. Both are running out. He laughed quietly, then turned serious. I know this isn't fair to you, but I'll make it right. You can't promise that. I can try, he said. The wind howled through the trees, making the lights flicker. Cashin glanced toward the window. Stay inside tonight. Lock your door. Expecting company? He didn't answer. Just trust me. Trust, she repeated softly. You use that word a lot. Because I've run out of people I can give it to, he said. Arya didn't respond. The thunder outside filled the silence between them. That night she lay awake, listening. Somewhere far off, the sound of engines broke through the rain. Faint at first, then louder. She sat up, heart pounding. Ghost growled low in his throat. "Cassian," she whispered, slipping from bed. Another sound, a gunshot, muffled by distance. Ghost barked once, sharp and loud. Before she could move, her door burst open. Nico stood there, gun drawn. "We're breached. Stay down." "What? Who?" "No time." He pulled her by the arm. "Cassian's securing the east gate. I can help. You can stay alive." Nico snapped. Ghost darted ahead, barking furiously down the hallway. They reached the staircase as two more guards ran past. Thunder roared overhead, or maybe it was more gunfire. "Get her to the bunker," one shouted. "No," said a voice behind them, Cassian's. He appeared from the opposite corridor, soaked, blood streaking his temple. The vehicles pulled back. "Just a test." "A test?" Arya gasped. "Someone shot at you." "They wanted to see our response time," Cassian said calmly. "Now they know." Nico cursed under his breath. "They'll be back." "I know," Cassian said. His eyes shifted to Arya. "You okay?" "I'm fine," she said, though her hands shook. "You call this safe?" "It was safer than being alone," he said softly. Ghost nudged his leg, tail down. Cassian bent to pat the dog's head. "Good instincts again." "He warned me," Arya said. "He knew before the shots." Cassian straightened. "Then maybe we should start listening to him." By the time the house calmed, dawn was breaking. The guards returned to their posts, and Isolde was already on the phone, issuing cold, efficient orders. Cassian stood on the porch, watching the rain ease into mist. Arya stepped beside him, wrapping her arms around herself. "You didn't even flinch," she said. "You learn not to. That's terrifying. It's survival." She glanced at his face, the tired lines around his eyes. "You ever get tired of surviving?" He looked at her for a long moment. "Every day." The honesty startled her. She didn't know what to say, so she said nothing. They stood there in silence, the storm finally giving way to gray morning. By the next morning, the house was almost peaceful again. The guards had changed shifts, the windows were repaired, and the scent of coffee filled the kitchen. Arya walked in to find Cassian at the stove, frying eggs one-handed. He wore a plain black shirt now, sleeves rolled to the elbows. His wound was healing, though his movements were still careful. "You cook?" she asked, surprised. "Only when the world isn't on fire," he said. "Hungry?" She nodded despite herself. "You didn't sleep either." "I tried. My nightmares were louder than yours, probably." She smiled faintly and sat at the counter. "You have nightmares?" "Who doesn't?" he said simply. Ghost wandered in, tail wagging cautiously, and settled by Cassian's feet again. The dog had chosen his side, it seemed. Cassian plated the eggs and poured 2 cups of coffee. "Eat. You're bossy even in the kitchen." "Habit," he said. "Years of giving orders." They ate quietly for a few minutes. The simple act felt strangely normal, almost domestic. Arya found herself relaxing for the first time since the night he'd shown up bleeding at her door. But the calm didn't last. Isolde entered the kitchen, tablet in hand. "Cassian, we have a problem." He sighed. "We always do." "This one's worse," she said, sliding the tablet toward him. The screen showed a photo, grainy, taken from a distance, but Arya recognized her own clinic in the image. Police cars and reporters surrounded it. "What is this?" Arya whispered. "News leak," Isolde said. "They found blood and bullet casings. Someone tipped them off." "Which means they know she helped you," Nico's voice came from the doorway. He leaned against the frame, expression grim. "And they'll know you're alive." Cashin stared at the photo for a long moment, his face unreadable. Then he set the tablet down. So it begins. Cashin, Arya started, but he lifted a hand. We'll move to the northern base, he said. Pack light. Only essentials. I'm not going anywhere, she said firmly. He looked up, surprised. You can't stay here. It's my life they're splashing all over the news, she said. My clinic, my home. I have to fix it. Fix it. He almost laughed. You can't fix war with good intentions. I can tell the truth. He shook his head slowly. You tell them anything, and you'll be dead before the interview ends. The words hit like a slap. You're threatening me now? I'm warning you, he said quietly. Because I've seen what they do to people who talk. Arya pushed back her chair, anger replacing fear. Maybe I should have let you die on that table. Cashin didn't move. Maybe you should have. But you didn't. Their eyes locked, the air between them charged. For a moment, neither spoke. Then he said, softer, You saved a man who doesn't deserve it. But I'll spend the rest of my life trying to. The words caught her off guard. She looked away. Big promises from someone who doesn't believe in peace. I believe in you being alive, he said. That's enough. Before she could answer, Nico cleared his throat. We've got movement at the gate again. Cashin grabbed his jacket. Get everyone inside. No risks. I'll go with you, Arya said. He turned sharply. No. I can help. I'm not useless. I didn't say you were, he said, stepping closer. But I can't protect you and fight them at the same time. The closeness between them made her heartbeat stumble. I didn't ask for protection. You got it anyway, he said. He left with Nico, the door slamming behind them. Arya stood there, trembling with a mix of anger and something she couldn't name. Ghost whined softly, nudging her hand. I know, she whispered. He's impossible. The day dragged on, gray and tense. Guards moved through the halls, radios buzzing with short bursts of code. Arya tried to read, to clean, to do anything that felt normal. But her mind kept drifting to Cashin out there in the rain, facing whoever wanted him dead. By late afternoon he returned, wet, exhausted, but alive. She met him at the door without meaning to. Was it them? She asked. Scouts. Nothing more. His voice was hoarse. But they're watching. She handed him a towel. You can stop pretending you're indestructible. I can't afford to, he said, drying his hair. If I stop pretending, my people stop believing. Believing what? That we can win. You sound like you're running a country, she said. He smiled faintly. Sometimes it feels like one. A very small, angry country. Arya laughed despite herself, and the sound surprised both of them. Cashin looked at her, really looked, as if noticing how the light caught in her hair, how the worry in her eyes softened when she smiled. You should do that more often, he said. What? Laugh. I don't have much reason to. Maybe I'll change that, he murmured. Their eyes met, and the silence that followed felt heavier than any storm. For a second, the world narrowed to the space between them, the smell of rain, the sound of their breathing. Then Isolde's voice cut through. Cashin, we need to talk. He stepped back instantly, mask of control sliding into place. Later, he said to Arya, and followed his sister down the hall. She watched him go, her heart both lighter and heavier at once. That night, the house was quiet again. Arya sat by the window with Ghost beside her, watching lightning flicker far out at sea. Somewhere in the darkness below, Cashin was walking the perimeter with his men. She whispered to the dog, He's a storm that never ends, isn't he? Ghost gave a low, contented huff, as if agreeing. Arya leaned her head against the glass. And somehow, we're both standing in the middle of it. Outside, thunder rolled again, and far away, Cashin looked up at the same flash of light, wondering how long he could keep her safe before the storm found them both again. The next morning brought cold sunlight and uneasy quiet. Arya woke to the sound of voices outside her door. She slipped on her sweater and cracked it open. Down the hall, Cashin was speaking to Isolde in low, tight tones. "She can't stay here forever," Isolde said. "You're drawing too much attention." "She stays until I know Voron's finished," Cashin replied. Isolde crossed her arms. "You're thinking with guilt, not logic. That woman's presence puts us all at risk." Arya stepped out before they noticed her. "Then maybe I should make it easier for you." Both turned. Cashin's expression softened immediately. "Arya." "No," she said firmly. "You don't need to argue over me like I'm a problem to be solved." Isolde's face remained cold, unreadable. "You're not a problem, Doctor. You're a variable. Variables are unpredictable." "People usually are," Arya said. "And if I'm such a risk, I'll leave." Cashin took a step closer. "You can't." "You keep saying that," she said. "But you never give me a reason that isn't soaked in mystery and orders." "Because the truth doesn't make it safer," he said quietly. "Try me." He hesitated, jaw tightening. Then he turned and gestured for her to follow him downstairs. The study smelled of smoke and cedar. Cashin poured 2 glasses of water, handed her one, and leaned against the desk. "You want honesty?" he asked. "Yes. For once." He nodded slowly. "My name isn't just known. It's feared. The Vale Syndicate, my family, controls ports, trade routes, security contracts. Most legal. Some not. So you're confirming you're exactly what everyone thinks you are," she said, voice steady though her stomach twisted. "I inherited it," he said. "When my father died, I took over. I was 25. I didn't have a choice. You always have a choice. Not when the alternative is your sister in the ground." That silenced her. He continued, voice low. "Voron was my father's partner once. Then he wanted more. He's been hunting me since the day I refused to join his expansion. The ambush that night? His men." Arya's throat went dry. "So when you showed up bleeding at my door, I was running from them. They tracked me through a shipment. I needed somewhere off-grid. Your clinic was close. Remote." She stepped back, realization dawning. "You knew it was there." He didn't answer. "You didn't just stumble in during a storm. You chose my clinic," she said. "You planned it." Cashin exhaled, looking down. "I had files on every safe location within 50 miles. Yours was one. You weren't supposed to be there that late." Her voice rose. "So what was I? A lucky accident. You were a risk I couldn't avoid." Arya's chest tightened. "You used me." "Not like that," he said quickly. "I never wanted you involved. But you let me patch you up knowing that if they found you, they'd kill us both." His silence confirmed it. She stepped back again, anger flaring. "You talk about protection like it's kindness, but it's control, Cashin. You didn't save me, you trapped me." His voice dropped, rougher now. "If I'd told you the truth, would you have helped me?" "No," she said. "Then you'd be dead now." The air between them went still. Rain began tapping against the windows again, soft but relentless. Cashin looked at her, regret written across every line of his face. "I didn't mean for it to happen like this. You were supposed to stay untouched by this world." "Too late," she said. He took a step toward her, then stopped. "Arya." "Don't." Her voice cracked. "Don't say my name like it means something. You lost the right to that." Before he could answer, Ghost appeared in the doorway, whining softly. Arya turned away. "I'm done being part of your war," she said, walking out. She packed in silence. Her hands shook as she stuffed clothes into a small bag. Ghost paced the room, sensing her distress. "You're not staying here either," she whispered to the dog. "We're leaving." When she reached the door, 2 guards stood outside. Dr. Solano, one said apologetically, we have orders not to let you leave. Her voice trembled with fury. From Cashin, I assume? Yes, ma'am. She laughed bitterly. Of course. She slammed the door and leaned against it, breathing hard. Through the wall she heard distant shouting, Cashin and Isolde again. Then footsteps, fast and heavy. Cashin appeared moments later, breath ragged, eyes storm-dark. I told them to stay until I spoke to you, he said. I don't need your guards, or your permission, she said. You lied to me. Over and over. He didn't deny it. And I'd do it again if it meant keeping you alive. She stared at him, every muscle trembling. You think that's love or loyalty or whatever you call it, but it's not. It's fear. You're terrified of losing control. He stepped closer, voice barely above a whisper. And you're terrified because for the first time in years, someone could actually lose you. She swallowed, heart thudding painfully. I don't belong here. I know. His voice cracked slightly. But until Voron's gone, it's the only place you won't die. He turned away before she could see the pain in his eyes. Stay inside tonight. Please. Then he left, leaving her with nothing but the echo of his footsteps and the weight of everything unspoken between them. That night, Arya sat awake again, unable to rest. Ghost slept by the fire, tail twitching in dreams. Her mind replayed every word Cashin had said, every secret he'd kept. She hated that a part of her still cared whether he came back alive. When the thunder began again, she whispered into the dark, You should have stayed dead that night, Cashin Vale. But the ache in her chest betrayed her. By the following afternoon, the rain had stopped but the air felt heavy with tension. Arya hadn't seen Cashin since the night before. Isolde had kept her distance, and Nico avoided her entirely. She decided to explore the grounds, if only to breathe air that didn't smell of fear and secrets. Ghost trotted beside her as she walked through the garden. The house loomed behind them like a dark mirror of the mountains. She followed a gravel path that wound toward the outer fence. The quiet was strange. Too quiet. Even the birds were silent. Ghost suddenly froze, ears high, body stiff. What is it? She whispered. A low growl rumbled from his chest. Then she saw it, a glint between the trees. Metal. A lens catching light. Someone's watching us, she breathed. Before she could move, a shot cracked the air. The bullet hit the fence, sparks flying. She dropped instantly, pulling Ghost down with her. 2 guards sprinted from the gate, shouting into radios. Sniper! North Ridge! Cashin's voice thundered from somewhere behind. Get her inside. Strong hands grabbed her shoulders, dragging her to cover. She looked up. It was Cashin, face hard, gun in his right hand. Are you hurt? No, she gasped. Just move. He pushed her toward the house, staying between her and the trees. Another shot rang out, shattering a window above them. Glass rained down. Inside, guards shouted orders. Isolde appeared at the top of the stairs, calm as ever, barking commands. Perimeter lockdown. Drone feed now. Cashin shoved Arya into the hallway corner. Stay down. I'm not. He glared. Arya, please. The word stopped her. He turned to Nico. Find the nest and silence it. Nico nodded and vanished with 2 men. For a few tense minutes, all they heard was the storm of footsteps and distant thunder. Then Nico's voice came through the radio. Sniper neutralized. 1 man. Russian markings. Voron's scouts, Cashin muttered. Isolde lowered her phone. They're testing you again. Cashin's jaw tightened. Then it's my turn. He looked at Arya, still crouched by the wall, hair tangled, eyes wide. Are you sure you're all right? I'm fine, she said automatically. You're shaking. I'm angry, she snapped. You said this house was safe. I said it was safer, he corrected. There's a difference. I'm done hiding, she said, standing. I can't keep living like this, waiting for bullets. He caught her arm gently. You think I like this? Every time I close my eyes, I see the people I couldn't protect. I won't add your face to that list. She looked at him, seeing the pain behind his control. You can't protect me forever. Maybe not. But I can try until my last breath. The words silenced her. Ghost brushed against her leg, whining softly. Cashin let go of her arm, stepping back. You'll stay here until we leave. Tonight we move north. I'm not your prisoner. Then act like a survivor, he said, turning away. Later, when the tension eased, Arya found him in the garage checking weapons and maps. The smell of oil and metal filled the air. You're really going to war, aren't you? She asked. He looked up. It already started. Against who? One man. Against everything he stands for. Arya watched him in silence, then said softly, You can't win if you keep bleeding everyone who cares about you. Cashin froze for a second, then smiled sadly. You think I don't know that? Then why keep doing it? He holstered his gun. Because if I stop, more people die. You sound like someone carrying the weight of the world. I am, he said simply. She hesitated, then took a step closer. Let me help. He shook his head. You've done enough. Not for you, she said. For me. I need to do something other than hide. He studied her for a moment, as if deciding whether to argue. Finally, he nodded. Fine. You'll ride with me when we move. Stay behind me, follow orders, and don't argue. Can't promise that last one, she said. His mouth twitched. Didn't think so. That night, she stood at the window again as the convoy prepared outside. Engines rumbled. Men loaded weapons and supplies into vehicles. Cashin gave short, quiet commands. Ghost barked once, eager, sensing change. Cashin climbed into the lead car and looked toward her window. For a moment, their eyes met through the glass. He raised a hand slightly, a signal or a silent apology. She nodded once. The gates opened, and the convoy rolled into the dark. Arya turned to Ghost. Well, boy, she whispered, looks like we're part of this storm whether we like it or not. The dog wagged his tail softly, then lay down at her feet as thunder rumbled far away, a promise of the battles still to come. The convoy rolled north through winding mountain roads. Night draped the world in darkness, and the rain returned halfway through the drive, thin, needling, relentless. Arya sat in the back seat beside Cashin, Ghost curled at her feet. She hadn't spoken much since they left the estate. Her eyes followed the flashing headlights cutting through fog. Cold? Cashin asked quietly. I'm fine, she said, though her hands were trembling. He reached over and turned up the car's heater. The warmth filled the silence between them. After hours of twisting roads, they reached another set of gates, steel and high, lined with pine trees on either side. A guard approached, scanning Cashin's face before nodding them through. Welcome to the Pines, Cashin said softly. The car stopped before a wide stone house built into the slope of the mountain. Its walls were gray and rough, half hidden by trees. Armed men moved like shadows around the perimeter. Arya stepped out, breathing the cold air. The pine scent was strong, clean, grounding. So this is safe? She asked. As safe as it gets, Cashin said. Few people even know this place exists. Inside, the house was simpler than the mansion they'd left. Stone fireplaces, dark wood, narrow hallways. It felt more like a command post than a home. Isolde met them at the door, her tone clipped. We had to move quickly. Supplies are still being transferred. Cashin nodded. Good. Any signs of pursuit? None yet, she said. Her gaze shifted to Arya. You made it in one piece, Doctor. Thanks to your brother's endless caution, Arya said dryly. Isolde smiled thinly. Caution keeps him breathing. You'll learn that. I'm not sure I want to. Cashin interrupted before they could continue. Isolde, get the doctor a room near the east wing. She arched an eyebrow. So she can hear the gunfire first? Because it's closest to the exit, he said evenly. Arya looked between them, the tension almost visible. You two ever stop arguing? No, Isolde said simply, turning away. Later, Cashin gave Arya a quick tour. The lower level was a maze of rooms, storage, communications, an armory, and finally a small medical wing. This is where you can work if you need space, he said. Some of the men still have wounds from the last ambush. You mean bullet holes, she said. He gave a faint smile. You're getting used to the vocabulary. I'm adapting, she said. Not the same thing. He stopped at a window overlooking the trees. Moonlight shone silver through the fog. You didn't have to come, he said quietly. You still could have walked away. I tried to, she said. Your guards didn't exactly cooperate. I meant before all this, he said. You could have let me die that night. She looked at him, the memory of that storm flashing behind her eyes. I don't let people die when I can help it. That's who I am. That's why I'm trying to change, he said. Arya frowned. Change. Every time I lose someone, it's because I let this life control me. I'm tired of being what everyone thinks I am. She studied him for a long moment. And what do you think you are? He hesitated. A man trying to be better, one wrong decision at a time. The honesty in his voice caught her off guard. For a moment, she saw not the boss, but the man beneath the scars and armor. Ghost whined softly, breaking the silence. Cashin smiled faintly. Even your dog thinks I'm being dramatic. Maybe he's just waiting for you to stop talking and feed him, she said, and for the first time in days, they both laughed. Quiet, fragile laughter, the kind that felt like a truce. That night, Arya couldn't sleep. The house was too still, the air too cold. She walked to the balcony outside her room, Ghost padding behind her. Down below, she saw Cashin in the courtyard, alone, practicing with a pistol. His movements were fluid, efficient, each shot precise, each breath controlled. He didn't see her watching. She realized then how different their worlds were, hers made to heal, his made to destroy. Yet both existed side by side, bound by the same storm that refused to end. Ghost whined softly, as if sensing her thoughts. I know, she whispered. He's impossible to ignore. When she finally turned back inside, she didn't notice Cashin glance up at her window, eyes lifting to where she'd stood a heartbeat ago. Morning came quiet, wrapped in fog. The smell of coffee drifted through the hallways. Arya found Cashin already in the kitchen, shirt sleeves rolled, reading a report on a tablet. You sleep? He asked without looking up. No. You. Same. He set the tablet down. We need to talk. About what? About the rules, he said. She frowned. Rules. Here, there are lines you don't cross. If something happens, if you hear gunfire, or shouting, you go to the basement. Don't open doors you don't recognize. Don't speak to anyone unless they say my name first. Understood. You're turning this into a prison manual, she said. I'm turning it into a survival plan, he replied. Arya crossed her arms. What about you? Do you have rules? Yes, he said. Never hurt the innocent. Never betray family. Never leave a debt unpaid. And how's that working out for you? He smiled slightly. 2 out of 3, so far. Which one did you break? He looked away. The one about debts. Something in his tone made her ask, softly, Who did you owe? He hesitated, then said, My father. He wanted me to take everything he built and turn it into something legitimate. I failed him. You're trying, she said. Maybe that counts. Cashin's gaze met hers. You really believe people can change, don't you? I have to, she said. Otherwise I'd stop saving them. He reached for the coffee pot and poured 2 cups. You make everything sound simple. It's not simple. It's human. Their eyes met over the mugs. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Nico entered, breaking the moment. "Boss," he said, "we've got word from the docks." Voron's men made a move. Cashin's calm vanished. "What kind of move?" "They hit one of our shipments. Left a message. They know we relocated." Cashin's jaw tightened. "How?" Nico's eyes flicked toward Arya. "They mentioned a doctor." Arya's stomach dropped. "What?" They said, and I quote, "Tell the doctor we'll come collect what's ours." Cashin slammed the mug down, coffee spilling. "They're watching her." "How?" Arya asked, her voice barely steady. "Your clinic," Cashin said. "They must have bugged it. Cameras, maybe. They saw us together." "So this is my fault now?" she demanded. "No," he said quickly. "This is mine. I brought you into this." Isolde appeared in the doorway, expression unreadable. "They're not bluffing, Cashin. They're using her to drag you out." Cashin looked at Arya. "Then we make them regret it." An hour later, the house was in motion, guards checking weapons, cars fueled, routes mapped. Arya stood near the balcony, watching the organized chaos. "You're going after them," she said when Cashin approached. He nodded. "We found the coordinates they used to send the message. An abandoned sawmill near the river." "Let me come." "No. I can help." "You've helped enough," he said firmly. She stepped closer. "If they mention me again, if they use me as bait, you'll need someone who knows what they're capable of." He met her gaze. "You don't understand how dangerous they are." "I understand enough," she said. "I've been shot at, lied to, dragged across the state, and still haven't run. You owe me honesty, and a chance to fight back." He sighed. "You're relentless." "It's called survival," she said, echoing his own words. That made him smile, faintly. "Fine. But you stay with me. You follow my lead. No heroics." "Deal." "Don't make me regret it," he said. "Already too late," she replied. Before they left, Isolde stopped Cashin at the door. "You're taking her?" "She won't stay," he said. "Then tie her to a chair." He smiled tiredly. "You'd like that, wouldn't you? She's not ready for what's out there." "Neither was I when Father died," he said. "She'll learn fast." Isolde's gaze softened for a moment. "You're changing, Cashin." He looked at Arya waiting by the car. "Maybe that's not a bad thing." The drive to the river was silent, tense. The forest closed in on both sides, rain whispering through the branches. When they arrived, the sawmill loomed like a skeleton of steel and wood. The air smelled of rust and damp earth. Cashin turned to Arya. "Stay behind me." "I said I would." He gave her a look that said he didn't quite believe her. Then he signaled to Nico, and the team moved in. Inside, the sawmill was dark except for faint light filtering through holes in the roof. The echo of dripping water filled the air. They moved carefully, guns raised, checking corners. Arya followed, heart pounding. Every shadow looked alive. Suddenly a voice echoed from above. "Cashin Vale. Always the hero." Cashin's grip tightened on his weapon. "Voron." A man stepped into the light on a catwalk, tall, lean, smiling like a shark. "You brought your doctor. How touching." Arya's blood ran cold. "Let her go," Cashin said. "She's free to leave," Voron said. "After she watches you die." Gunfire exploded before anyone could answer. Cashin pushed Arya behind a pile of crates, bullets sparking off metal. Nico's men returned fire, shouting commands. The air filled with chaos, echoing shots, shouting, splinters flying. Cashin fired back, precise, deadly. Two of Voron's men fell before they even realized he'd moved. "Stay here," he shouted at Arya. She ducked behind cover, heart hammering, whispering to Ghost who cowered beside her. "It's okay, boy, it's okay." Then, in the middle of the noise, she saw a man sneaking up behind Cashin, weapon raised. Without thinking, she grabbed a loose wrench from the floor and threw it. It struck the man's wrist. The gun went off harmlessly. Cashin spun, shot once, and the attacker dropped. He looked back at her, eyes wide. "I said no heroics," he shouted over the noise. "You're welcome," she shouted back. Finally, the shooting slowed. The last echo faded into rain on the roof. Vorin was gone. Only his laughter lingered. Cashin lowered his weapon, breathing hard. "It was a trap," he said. "He wanted to see how far I'd go for you." Arya stepped closer. "And what did you just prove?" He looked at her, eyes dark. "That I'd burn the world before I let him touch you." They drove back in silence, the storm easing into drizzle. Arya sat beside him, staring out the window. "You can't fight a ghost," she said quietly. "Then I'll become one," Cashin murmured. "One he can't kill." Arya turned to him. "That's not living." "No," he said softly. "It's surviving." The road twisted through the pines, and somewhere behind them, thunder rolled again, low and distant, like the promise of a war still far from over. The storm had finally quieted, but inside the mountain house, tension still lingered like smoke. It had been 3 days since the ambush at the sawmill. 3 days since Arya saw the man who wanted Cashin dead, and by extension, her. Cashin had barely slept. Every morning he disappeared into the office with Nico and Isolde, his voice low and rough, giving orders Arya didn't understand. Every night, she found him outside, staring into the forest as if waiting for the next attack. She spent her time tending to the wounded guards. Some had bullet wounds from the sawmill, others from older fights. They respected her, calling her Doc now. The house had become a strange mix of hospital and battlefield. But no matter how busy she kept herself, her thoughts always circled back to him. Cashin Vale, the man she'd saved, hated, and somehow couldn't stop thinking about. That evening, she found him in the garage. He was shirtless, sitting on the edge of a workbench, his shoulder wound red and raw again. A bloody bandage lay on the floor. "You tore your stitches," she said, moving toward him. He looked up, eyes weary. "It's nothing." "It's infected," she snapped. "You don't get to decide that." She fetched her kit from the wall shelf. "You keep acting like pain makes you invincible." He gave a tired smile. "Pain reminds me I'm still here." She glared. "That's not philosophy. That's stupidity." Cashin chuckled under his breath but didn't argue. When she cleaned the wound, he winced slightly. "Hold still," she said. "You'd think a man who commands armies could follow basic instructions." "I do better with orders when they come from you," he murmured. Her hand froze. The air thickened. "Don't say things like that," she said quietly. "Why not?" "Because I don't know if you mean them." He looked at her then, really looked. "I've never said anything I didn't mean." She broke the gaze first, focusing on her work. Her heartbeat felt too loud in the silence that followed. When she finished, she stepped back. "Try not to ruin my stitches again." He stood, close enough that she could feel the heat from his skin. "You shouldn't have to keep fixing me." "Then stop getting hurt," she said. "Can't. Comes with the job." "Your job is chaos." "And yours?" he asked. "Saving people who don't deserve it." She exhaled slowly. "Maybe." Cashin smiled faintly. "Then maybe we're not that different." He stepped closer, and she didn't move. His voice dropped to a whisper. "You've seen me at my worst, and you're still here. Why?" "I don't know," she admitted. "Maybe you do," he said, his gaze flicking to her lips. Her breath caught. "Cashin." He kissed her. It wasn't soft or tentative. It was desperate, all storm and hunger and the weight of everything unsaid. She should have pushed him away. She didn't. For a moment, the world narrowed to the warmth of his hands on her waist and the way her heart seemed to forget how to beat properly. When they finally broke apart, she whispered, "This is wrong." "I know." "Then why?" Because everything else in my life is already broken, he said. You're the only thing that doesn't feel like a lie. Her throat tightened. You can't keep using me as your escape. I'm not. His voice softened. You're the only thing keeping me sane. She didn't answer. The silence was full of things neither of them dared say. Finally, she stepped back, shaking her head. I can't do this. Because of who I am. Because I don't know who you really are, she said. He nodded once, pain flickering in his eyes. Then maybe it's time you did. That night, Cashin told her everything. They sat by the fire in the main hall, the flames throwing light across his face. He spoke of his father's empire, a dynasty built on half-truths and blood. Of the betrayal that killed him. Of the night Cashin swore revenge and became what everyone feared. I tried to make it clean, he said quietly. Business, not blood. But there's no such thing in this world. Arya listened in silence. When he finally stopped, she said softly, You could still walk away. I can't. Not until this ends. And then. He looked into the fire. I don't know what comes after. I've never had an after. She studied him for a long moment. You're not what I expected. Disappointed. No, she said. Worried. He smiled faintly. That's worse. Maybe, she said. But at least it's real. When she stood to leave, he caught her hand gently. Arya. She looked down at him. If I asked you to stay when this is over, he said, would you? She hesitated. Ask me when you survive it. He let her go. Fair enough. As she walked away, she heard him whisper something she wasn't meant to catch. You're the only thing worth surviving for. The next morning, Arya woke early, sunlight spilling across the room. For the first time in weeks, the world felt almost peaceful. She dressed and went to the kitchen, expecting to find Cashin drinking his usual bitter coffee. Instead, she found Isolde and Nico bent over a laptop, their faces pale. What's wrong? Arya asked. Neither answered. Isolde's expression was unreadable as she turned the screen toward her. It was a security feed, grainy footage from the night Cashin had arrived at her clinic. A voice came through the speakers. Cashin's. Keep eyes on the vet's place. It's remote. Perfect to draw them out. Arya's breath caught. What is this? Footage from before the night he came to you, Isolde said quietly. He used your clinic as bait, doctor, to make Voron's men follow him there. Arya felt the floor tilt. No. He said he didn't know. He knew, Isolde said softly. He planned it. Arya's stomach twisted. She turned and ran from the room. She found Cashin in the courtyard, checking the cars. We're moving again, he said without looking up. You used me. The words hit like a blade. Cashin froze. What? You set up that night, she said. You chose my clinic because it was remote. You didn't stumble in half dead, you planned it. His expression didn't change, but his eyes gave him away. Arya. Don't lie to me again, she said, her voice shaking. I didn't know it would be you there, he said. I only needed a safe location off-grid. You weren't supposed to be part of it. But I was, she said. You let me risk my life for you without telling me the truth. I was trying to protect you. By lying. Yes, he said simply. Because if I'd told you who I was, you'd have thrown me out, and then Voron's men would have found you anyway. She stared at him, anger and heartbreak crashing together. You don't get to decide what I can handle. He took a step forward. You're alive because of me. And half dead inside because of you, she shot back. The silence that followed was sharp and cold. He finally said, If you hate me alive. Not dead in a ditch somewhere. That's not the point. It's the only point that matters to me. Her throat tightened. I thought you were different. I'm exactly what they say I am, he said quietly. But I'm trying not to be. Arya shook her head. You can't fix this with promises or pity. I'm not asking for pity. His voice broke slightly. I'm asking for time. She turned away. Time doesn't heal lies, Cashin. It just makes them heavier. Then she walked past him, ignoring the way his eyes followed her like a ghost. Hours passed. She stayed in her room, refusing food, refusing conversation. Ghost sat beside her, sensing her sadness. By late afternoon, she heard footsteps outside. Cashin's voice, low and rough. Arya, open the door. Go away. Please. Something in his tone made her unlock it. He stood there, exhausted, eyes shadowed. You were right, he said quietly. I used your clinic. I lied. I hurt you. Then why are you here? She whispered. Because I can't stand the thought of you hating me, he said. Not you. Her voice broke. You made me part of something I never wanted. I know, he said. And I'd undo it if I could. Would you? Yes. He stepped closer. But since I can't, I'll tell you the truth about everything from now on. No more lies. No more walls. Too late, she said, tears welling. The walls are already there. He reached out as if to touch her face, then stopped. I'll wait, he said. However long it takes. Then he turned and left, leaving her trembling in the doorway. Later that night, Arya went to the balcony again. The rain had started up once more, soft and steady. The sound filled the silence between her thoughts. She heard footsteps behind her and turned. Cashin stood in the doorway, not speaking, just watching her. You should be resting, she said. So should you. Neither moved. Finally she said, I don't know if I can forgive you. I don't need forgiveness, he said. Just a chance to make it right. How do you fix something like this? One day at a time, he said. If you let me. She looked away, tears glistening in the rainlight. I don't trust you. I'll earn it back, he said. And if you don't? Then I'll still keep you safe, he said quietly. Even if you never look at me the same way again. Arya's voice trembled. You can't protect me from the things you've already done. I can try, he whispered. For a long moment, they stood there, the storm around them a mirror of everything between them. Love, anger, guilt, and something too powerful to name. Finally, Cashin stepped back. Get some rest, Arya. When he walked away, she felt the emptiness he left behind like a wound that no doctor could heal. That night, Cashin sat alone in the study, the storm echoing outside. On the table before him lay a photo, Arya at her clinic, smiling, taken by one of his scouts before everything began. He stared at it for a long time, then said softly to the empty room, I should have left you out of my world. But now you're the only thing worth fighting for in it. Lightning flashed, briefly illuminating his face, not the calm leader everyone feared, but a man finally realizing that love could be the most dangerous truth of all. The morning after the storm felt strangely still. The clouds hung low over the mountains, trapping the world in gray. Arya stood by the kitchen window, a cup of coffee untouched in her hands. Cashin hadn't spoken to her since the night before. The air between them was heavy with words unsaid. She was starting to wonder if she should leave, truly leave, when the house alarms went off. The sound sliced through the quiet like a blade. Ghost leapt up, barking. Arya dropped her cup and ran into the hall just as guards sprinted past her. What's happening? She called. Perimeter breach, one shouted. Stay inside. She turned a corner and almost collided with Cashin. He was armed, his voice sharp as he spoke into a radio. Sector 3, hold the line. Don't let them reach the south gate. Cashin! Arya shouted, grabbing his arm. What's going on? Voron's men, he said. They found us. Gunfire echoed outside, short, brutal bursts that made the walls shake. Cashin shoved her toward a guard. Get her to the basement. I'm not, she started, but he cut her off. Now, Arya. Before she could protest, The guard grabbed her arm. Ghost barked, teeth bared, ready to fight. Cashin looked back once. "Keep her safe," he told the guard, voice low, before turning toward the sound of battle. They dragged her through the hallways as the noise grew louder, boots pounding, glass shattering, shouts mixing with gunfire. Every corner smelled of gunpowder and fear. "Down there!" the guard ordered, pointing to the stairs that led to the basement. They were halfway down when something exploded upstairs. The shockwave knocked them off balance. Dust and plaster rained from the ceiling. The guard swore, pulling Arya to her feet. And then, silence. Too sudden, too complete. The guard hesitated, listening. "Stay behind me," he whispered. A shadow moved at the bottom of the stairs. Before Arya could react, a figure stepped from the darkness. Masked, armed, eyes like cold steel. A gunshot cracked. The guard fell instantly, a red bloom spreading across his chest. Arya froze. The man's voice was muffled through his mask. "Dr. Solano." She backed away, shaking her head. "Please." "Orders are to bring you alive," he said. "Don't make me change that." He grabbed her arm. She tried to pull free, but he was too strong. Ghost lunged, teeth sinking into the man's sleeve, tearing it open. The attacker shouted, kicking the dog aside. "No!" Arya screamed. She threw herself at him, nails raking his arm, but he slammed the butt of his gun into her stomach. The air rushed out of her, pain blooming white-hot. He hoisted her over his shoulder, ignoring her screams. The last thing she saw before darkness took her was Ghost limping after them, barking until the sound faded. When Arya woke, everything hurt. Her head throbbed. Her wrists burned from the rope binding them. She was lying on a cold floor that smelled of oil and rust. She blinked against dim light. The room was a warehouse. High ceilings, broken windows, water dripping from pipes above. A man sat on a chair across from her, smoking. He wasn't masked. His hair was blonde, neatly cut, his suit expensive. He looked out of place amid the filth. "Dr. Solano," he said in a smooth accent. "Welcome back to the land of the living." "Who are you?" she whispered. He smiled faintly. "Mikhail Vorin." The name chilled her. "You're the one who wants Cashin dead," she said. "Correction," he said, flicking ash onto the floor. "I need Cashin dead. There's a difference." "Why bring me here?" she demanded. "You could have killed me." "Because killing you would be wasteful," he said. "Cashin would simply destroy everything I own and still keep breathing. But using you—" He smiled again, cold and amused. "Now that gets his attention." She glared at him. "He'll come for me. I'm counting on it." He stood and walked toward her, stopping just close enough for her to smell his cologne, sharp and metallic. "You know, he used you long before I did. You were a convenient shield. I'm simply continuing his lesson." "I don't believe you," she said. "You should," Vorin said softly. "Because when he comes, he'll burn half the world to reach you. And that's when I'll end him." He turned to one of his men. "Make sure she's fed. I want her alive when he arrives." Then he left, his footsteps fading into the echoing hall. Hours passed, or maybe it was a day. Arya couldn't tell anymore. The lights flickered, time stretching thin. She tried to work at the ropes binding her wrists, rubbing them against the edge of a metal beam until her skin split. When the ropes finally loosened, she froze, listening. No guards near. Just rain dripping through the roof. She took a deep breath, steadying her shaking hands, and reached for a shard of glass on the floor. She cut the last of the rope quietly, every sound too loud in the silence. Then she moved. Step by step, barefoot and slow. The warehouse door was slightly ajar, moonlight leaking through. She peeked outside, a yard full of trucks and armed men. Escape was nearly impossible. Still, she had to try. She slipped along the shadows, heartbeat loud in her ears. She made it halfway across the yard before a voice shouted behind her, "Stop!" Gunfire erupted. She ducked behind a stack of crates as bullets tore through the air. "Don't shoot!" another voice yelled. "Vorin wants her alive." She spotted a truck parked near the gate, keys still in the ignition. Taking a deep breath, she sprinted. A hand caught her jacket from behind. She spun, driving her knee into the man's stomach. He grunted, dropping his gun. She kicked it away and dove into the truck. The engine roared to life. She slammed her foot on the gas, tearing through the gates as shouts echoed behind her. Bullets shattered the rear window, but she didn't stop. Meanwhile, back at the mountain house, Cashin was a storm barely contained. He'd found Ghost injured by the stairs, bleeding but alive. When the dog led him to the basement and he saw the dead guard, something inside him broke. "She's gone," Nico said quietly. "Vorin took her." Cashin's voice was flat, deadly. "Then Vorin dies." He called every unit he had, every favor, every ally. Within hours, the house was a war zone in motion, engines starting, weapons loading, orders flying. "Track every route out of these mountains," Cashin barked. "He won't get far." The truck made it 20 miles before it ran out of fuel. Arya stumbled out, dizzy and shaking. She was still deep in the woods, miles from civilization. She found an old service road and followed it, barefoot, every sound making her flinch. Rain poured again, soaking her clothes, turning the dirt into mud. She didn't stop until she saw headlights. For a moment, hope surged, rescue. But when the vehicle slowed, she saw the insignia on the doors. Vorin's men. She turned to run, but they were faster. Hands grabbed her from behind, dragging her down. She screamed, kicked, fought, but it was no use. One man hit her across the face. "Should have stayed put, doctor." Everything went black. When she woke again, she was back in the warehouse, wrists bound tighter than before. Vorin was there, arms crossed, expression calm. "You're resilient," he said. "Cashin has good taste." Arya glared through swollen eyes. "You're wasting your time. He's coming." "Of course he is," Vorin said, lighting another cigarette. "And when he does, I'll be ready." He crouched beside her. "Tell me, doctor, what does a man like Cashin talk about when he's not killing? Does he tell you about the people he's buried? The families he's ruined? Or just the ones he's saved?" She said nothing. Vorin smiled faintly. "You're loyal. Admirable. Misplaced, but admirable." He stood, walking away. "Bring her when it starts." That night, Arya listened to the storm outside and tried not to think about fear. She focused on survival, on breath, heartbeat, time. Then, faintly, she heard something beyond the rain. Engines. Lots of them. A voice shouted outside. Then another. Gunfire erupted again. The walls shook. Vorin's men ran for cover. One guard grabbed Arya, hauling her toward the door. "Move." They barely made it outside when a bullet dropped him instantly. Arya stumbled backward as the night exploded into chaos. Cashin's men poured through the gates, dark shapes moving fast, precise. Gunfire lit up the rain like lightning. "Arya!" She heard Cashin's voice, rough and loud, cutting through the chaos. "Cashin!" she screamed. He turned toward the sound, gun in one hand, fury in every step. Vorin appeared behind her, grabbing her by the arm and pressing a gun to her temple. "One more step and she dies." Cashin froze. "Let her go," he said, voice low, dangerous. "Drop the gun," Vorin said, smiling. "You've cost me too much, Cashin. It's time you learned what losing feels like." Arya struggled, trying to break free, but Vorin tightened his grip. "Don't be stupid, doctor." Cashin slowly lowered his weapon. Vorin laughed. "Always the hero. How many people have died because of that need to save everyone? Your father, your men, now her." Cashin moved like lightning. He grabbed a fallen knife at his feet and threw it. The blade hit Vorin's shoulder, and in that split second, Arya ducked. Cashin fired once. The bullet hit true. Vorin fell, eyes wide, disbelief frozen on his face. Cashin ran to her, catching her as she stumbled. "You're hurt." "I've been better," she whispered, clinging to him. He pulled her close, his heart hammering against hers. "I thought I lost you." "You almost did." For a long moment, they just held on to each other as rain poured down and sirens wailed in the distance. When the gunfire finally stopped, Cashin helped her into one of the trucks. Ghost was there, bandaged and limping, tail thumping weakly. Arya smiled through tears. "Hey, boy." Cashin climbed in beside her, soaked and exhausted. "It's over," he said quietly. She looked at him. "Is it?" He didn't answer. As the convoy pulled away from the burning warehouse, the rain washed blood from the earth, and the storm began to fade. Hours later, back at the safe house, Arya sat by the fire, wrapped in a blanket. Cashin entered silently. His shirt was torn, blood still on his hands. "You should rest," she said. "So should you," he replied. She met his gaze. "You killed him." "Yes." "And you don't regret it?" "No." She nodded slowly. "Then maybe you're right. Maybe there's no clean way out of this world." He crouched beside her. "I don't want this world for you, Arya." "You can't erase it," she said softly. "It's in you." He looked away. "Then maybe I'll burn it out." "You'd burn yourself with it." "Maybe that's the price," he said quietly. Arya reached out, touching his hand. "You can't fix everything with fire, Cashin." He looked at her hand over his, then back into her eyes. "Maybe not. But I can start with keeping you safe." She smiled faintly. "You keep saying that. And I'll keep meaning it," he said. Outside, dawn broke over the mountains, pale light after endless rain. For the first time in days, the storm had passed, but both of them knew it wasn't gone. It was waiting, like all storms do, for the next spark to bring it back. The morning after Voron's death arrived quietly, like a held breath. The mountain air was clean again, washed by rain, but the silence that hung over the safe house was heavy. Smoke still curled in the distance from the warehouse fire, a dark reminder of what had been lost. Arya sat by the window, wrapped in a blanket. The bruises on her wrists had darkened. The small cuts on her cheeks still stung. But the deeper wound, the one carved by fear, anger, and confusion, lingered unseen. Cashin had barely spoken since bringing her back. He spent the night in the lower rooms, tending to his wounded men, giving orders, refusing rest. Now he stood in the doorway, watching her. His voice was soft but roughened by exhaustion. "You should eat." She didn't look up. "I'm not hungry." He stepped inside, setting a tray of soup on the table. "You need strength." "For what?" she asked. "Another war?" His silence was answer enough. She turned to face him, her eyes sharp. "How many more people have to die before you stop?" "I don't want anyone else to die," he said quietly. "But if I walk away now, everything we've done, everything I've built, will collapse. And then worse men will take my place." "You sound just like him." Cashin frowned. "Like who?" "Voron," she said, her voice trembling with fury. He thought the same way. That power justified everything. That his violence was noble. "You're not any different from him, Cashin. You're just cleaner about it." The words hit harder than a bullet. He didn't respond, just stared at her with that same hollow calm he wore when hiding pain. Finally, he said, "Maybe you're right." Arya looked away, guilt flickering in her chest, but she didn't take it back. He turned to leave, then paused at the door. "You think I don't know what I am? I wake up every morning hoping to find a reason to be someone else. You were that reason." When he left, she sat there trembling, torn between anger and heartbreak. Ghost rested his head on her knee, whining softly. "I don't know if I can save him, boy," she whispered. "I don't even know if I should try." That afternoon, the safe house buzzed with quiet urgency. Cashin's men repaired damaged equipment and patched walls. The survivors moved like ghosts, tired, wary, but loyal. Nico approached Cashin as he loaded ammunition into a case. "You can't keep going like this," Nico said. "You're running on fumes." Cashin didn't stop. "We're still not safe. Vorin's dead." "You made sure of that." "His allies aren't." Nico sighed. "She's right, you know." Cashin looked up, eyes cold. "Don't start." "She is," Nico said. "You've been at war so long you don't know how to stop. You don't know who you are without it." Cashin closed the case with a sharp click. "If you're done psychoanalyzing me, get the convoy ready. We leave by dawn." Nico hesitated. "Where?" Cashin glanced toward the upper floor, toward Arya's room. "Somewhere she can be free of this." "Free of you?" Nico asked quietly. Cashin didn't answer. Arya found Isolde later, in the medical wing, organizing supplies. "Is he always like this?" Arya asked, folding her arms. Isolde looked up, faintly amused. "You mean brooding and stubborn?" "Yes." "It's our family curse." Arya hesitated, then said, "He doesn't listen to anyone." "Except you," Isolde said simply. "You just don't realize it." Arya shook her head. "He listens until it hurts, then he shuts down." "That's how he survives," Isolde replied. "Cashin doesn't know how to live without control. He's afraid of losing the few things he still cares about." "I'm not something he owns," Arya said sharply. "I don't think he sees you that way," Isolde said softly. "He sees you as the only thing left that isn't tainted." Arya looked away. "Then he's mistaken. I'm not clean anymore either." For a moment, Isolde was quiet. Then she said, "When you love someone like my brother, you either heal them, or you get pulled into the fire with them. There's rarely a middle ground." Arya's voice trembled. "And which one are you?" "I was burned a long time ago," Isolde said, turning back to her work. That night, Arya found Cashin outside by the vehicles, checking weapons under the pale moonlight. "Isolde says you're leaving," she said. He didn't look up. "We all are." "You mean running?" "Strategic relocation," he corrected. She crossed her arms. "You can dress it up however you want. It's still running." He finally met her eyes. "Would you rather I stay and die?" "I'd rather you stop pretending death is the only way to end things," she said. He took a slow breath. "There's something I need to give you." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small metal pendant, a thin, silver disc engraved with an unfamiliar symbol. "It's a tracker," he said. "If we ever get separated again, this will help me find you." Arya stared at it. "I don't want it." "It's not about trust," he said. "It's about safety." She shook her head. "No, Cashin. It's always about control with you." He didn't argue. He just looked at her, that same haunted, guarded look that made her chest ache. Then he placed the pendant gently on the hood of the car. "You don't have to wear it," he said quietly. "But if something happens to me, keep it anyway." She frowned. "What are you talking about?" He glanced toward the dark treeline. "There's one more piece left on the board. Vorin had partners. I can't leave it unfinished." "Then you'll die trying," she said. "Maybe," he said. "But at least you'll live." "Don't you dare make that decision for me again," she said, her voice breaking. He hesitated, then touched her cheek lightly, just for a moment. "I'm not trying to decide for you, Arya. I'm trying to make sure you still have choices." Then he walked away, leaving her standing there beneath the cold stars, the silver pendant glinting in the moonlight. Dawn arrived gray and cold. The convoy was ready to move, engines rumbling softly in the mist. Cashin stood by the lead vehicle, checking his weapon one last time. Arya lingered on the porch, Ghost beside her. She didn't want to watch him go, but she couldn't not watch, either. He caught her gaze across the yard and nodded once. A silent goodbye. Then something went wrong. A shout came from the perimeter. "Vehicle approaching." Everyone froze. Cashin raised his gun. Hold your fire. A lone SUV came down the dirt road, headlights off. It rolled to a stop near the gate. Nico jogged forward to check. "Boss, it's ours," he said after a moment. "Recon unit from the southern ridge." But when the door opened, Cashin's instincts screamed. The driver, a young man Cashin didn't recognize, stepped out slowly. Too calm. Too deliberate. Cashin moved. "Nico." The explosion cut him off. The SUV erupted in flame, the blast throwing men backward, shattering windows. The air filled with smoke and dust. Cashin hit the ground hard, ears ringing. When he pushed himself up, chaos reigned, shouting, gunfire, confusion. From the smoke, figures emerged, armed, masked, moving fast. "Ambush!" Isolde shouted from the balcony. "We're breached." Cashin grabbed his weapon, firing back. "Get Arya out," he roared. But she was already running toward him. "Cashin! Stay back!" he shouted, but it was too late. One of the attackers grabbed her from behind, pressing a gun to her throat. "Drop it!" the man yelled. Cashin froze, gun raised, eyes burning with rage. "Let her go." The man's voice was familiar. Cashin's blood ran cold. "Nico." Nico smirked behind the mask and ripped it off. "Sorry, brother. Business is business." Cashin's world tilted. "You betrayed me." "Vorin wasn't working alone," Nico said. "You should have seen that coming. I'm just cashing in before the rest do." Cashin's hand tightened on his gun. "If you hurt her—" "Relax," Nico said. "She's worth more alive." Cashin's men were outnumbered, pinned down behind burning vehicles. Isolde was bleeding from a cut on her temple but still firing from the balcony. Cashin's voice dropped, low and lethal. "You won't leave this mountain alive." "Maybe not," Nico said, "but neither will you." Before Cashin could move, one of Nico's men fired. The bullet hit Cashin in the shoulder, spinning him backward. Arya screamed, elbowed her captor, and dropped to the ground. Ghost lunged, biting the attacker's arm. Cashin fired through the pain, killing 2 of Nico's men. Another grabbed Arya's arm, dragging her toward a jeep. "Arya!" Cashin shouted, blood pouring from his wound. She twisted, kicked free, and dove for cover behind a stone wall. The sound of gunfire filled the air again. Isolde shouted from above, "Cashin, behind you!" He spun, shot, dropped the last gunman who'd been creeping up. By the time the smoke began to clear, half of Nico's men were dead or fleeing. Nico himself was nowhere to be seen. Cashin staggered forward, clutching his bleeding shoulder. Arya ran to him, pressing her hands over the wound. "Stop moving," she said, voice trembling. "You'll make it worse." He managed a weak smile. "You always did like giving orders." "Shut up," she said, trying not to cry. Isolde climbed down from the balcony, limping but alive. "He's gone," she said. "Nico escaped with 2 trucks. We lost 3 men." Cashin gritted his teeth. "Then we hunt him." "No," Arya said firmly. "You're barely standing." "I'm not stopping now," he said. "Not until this is finished." She looked at him, blood covering her hands, his chest rising and falling too fast. "Then you'll die before you even find him." He gave a faint, tired laugh. "Maybe that's the point." She slapped him lightly on the chest, not hard enough to hurt, but enough to snap him back to reality. "Don't you dare give me that," she said. "Don't you dare give up after everything we've survived." He met her gaze, eyes full of pain and something deeper. "You still don't understand, Arya. People like me don't get to walk away." "Then maybe it's time you learned how," she said fiercely. The silence between them was heavy, broken only by the crackling of burning debris. Isolde looked between them and said quietly, "We can argue later. For now, we move. The longer we stay, the more they'll send." Cashin nodded reluctantly. "Get everyone ready." We leave within the hour. Arya helped him to his feet. He winced but didn't pull away. As they walked toward the remaining vehicles, the dawn light cut through the smoke, pale and cold, shining on a field of ruin. Cashin glanced back once at the burned house, at the ghosts of everything he'd built. Then he said, more to himself than anyone else, "If this is what it takes to end it, then so be it." Arya tightened her grip on his arm. "No, Cashin. This isn't the end. Not yet." He looked down at her, eyes dark but alive. "Then what is it?" "The beginning of something better," she said softly. He didn't answer, but as they climbed into the truck together, his hand found hers. For the first time, he didn't pull away. The convoy wound its way through the ruined roads below the mountain, leaving smoke and fire behind. The morning light was pale and cold. Cashin sat in the passenger seat, his shirt soaked with blood, eyes fixed on the horizon as Arya drove. He refused to let her stop, even as his head swayed from exhaustion. "You're going to pass out," she said, voice tight. "Not yet," he murmured. "You've lost too much blood." He gave a faint smile. "You worry too much. You almost died 3 times in 2 days," she snapped. "Worrying is the bare minimum." He turned his head toward her. "You should have left when you had the chance. And you should have stayed dead that night in the storm," she said. "But neither of us listen very well." Despite everything, he laughed, a low, rough sound that made her chest ache. They stopped at an old lumber cabin hidden deep in the valley, a temporary safe house Isolde's people once used. The others stayed outside, keeping watch while Arya dragged Cashin inside. He tried to protest, but the moment he sat down, his strength gave out. "Stay still," she ordered, tearing open her medical bag. "Bossy as ever," he muttered. "Bleeding out as ever," she shot back. She cleaned the wound, her hands steady though her heart wasn't. "You're lucky the bullet missed your lung." "Luck has nothing to do with it," he said weakly. "You've been keeping me alive since the night we met." She didn't answer. Instead, she pressed the bandage harder than necessary. He hissed in pain. "Good," she said. "That means you're still here." Outside, the air buzzed with tension. Isolde paced near the truck, barking orders at the remaining men. "We regroup in the next town. Get new vehicles, new IDs. Nico won't stop running, but he'll have fewer places to hide." One of the men hesitated. "And the boss?" Isolde glanced toward the cabin. "He'll live. He always does." Her voice was confident, but her eyes betrayed the truth. She wasn't sure this time. Inside, Cashin drifted in and out of consciousness. Arya sat by his side, brushing hair from his forehead. He stirred. "You should rest." "I'll rest when you do." He opened his eyes slightly. "If I die—" "Don't you dare finish that sentence," she whispered. He smiled faintly. "You really don't like being told what to do you?" "Not by men who keep dying on me," she said, blinking back tears. Cashin's hand found hers, weak but certain. "If I don't make it, tell Isolde she was right. Tell her I finally saw what Father wanted for us. A way out." "You can tell her yourself," Arya said. "I don't think—" "Stop," she said sharply. "You're not allowed to give up. You hear me? You don't get to throw everything away after making me care." His eyes softened. "You care." She hesitated, then whispered, "More than I should." He smiled, eyes closing again. "That's all I needed to hear." Hours passed. The storm outside returned, wind howling through the trees. Cashin slept restlessly, mumbling in his dreams. Arya stayed by his side, watching the flickering firelight dance across his scarred face. She thought about the night he'd first appeared, bleeding and broken on her clinic floor. If she'd turned him away, she would have been safe. But she also wouldn't have known this, the quiet strength beneath his violence, the man who risked everything to protect even when he didn't know how to love gently. She realized something then. She wasn't afraid of him anymore. She was afraid for him. Near midnight, the door burst open. Isolde rushed in, breathless. They found us. Arya jumped to her feet. How? They tracked one of the vehicles we stole, Isolde said. They're minutes out. We have to move. Cassian groaned, trying to rise. No, he said, voice hoarse. We end it here. Cassian, Arya began, but he was already standing, gun in hand, blood seeping through his bandage. Isolde's eyes widened. You can barely stand. I can still shoot, he said. Arya grabbed his arm. Please, don't do this. He looked at her, eyes steady. I have to. If I keep running, they'll never stop coming for you. I don't care, she said, tears in her voice. I just want you alive. He leaned closer, whispering, Then let me finish what I started. Before she could argue, the first gunshots echoed outside. Isolde grabbed Arya's hand. Stay with me. Cassian moved toward the door, Isolde covering him from behind. They stepped out into the night, rain lashing against their faces. The forest lit up with muzzle flashes. Cassian fired back, every shot precise, every movement controlled despite his wound. But there were too many. Arya watched through the cracked door, heart hammering. She saw him stumble once, blood spraying into the rain, but he didn't fall. He kept fighting. He was unstoppable, and breaking apart at the same time. Then, out of nowhere, Nico's voice rang out from the dark. Still alive, brother? Cassian froze. Nico stepped into view, smirking, rain glistening on his face. You should have stayed down when you had the chance. You should have never betrayed me, Cassian said coldly. Business, Cassian. You know how it works. You made it personal the moment you touched her. Nico laughed. Ah, yes. The good doctor. Always wondered what she saw in you. Maybe she likes broken men. Cassian fired, but Nico ducked behind cover. Bullets tore through the air. Arya couldn't take it anymore. She ran into the rain, grabbing a rifle from one of the fallen guards. Cassian! He turned, eyes wide. Get back inside. Not without you. Before he could stop her, Nico appeared behind a truck, aiming straight for Cassian. Arya didn't think. She raised the rifle and fired. The shot hit Nico in the shoulder. He staggered, stunned, dropping his weapon. Cassian didn't hesitate. One final shot to the chest. Nico fell. The rain fell harder, washing the blood into the dirt. Cassian turned to Arya, breathing hard. You shouldn't have come out. You shouldn't have given me a reason to, she said, lowering the gun. He smiled weakly. Remind me never to underestimate you again. Then his knees gave out. Arya caught him as he fell, screaming his name, holding him as the storm raged around them. Cassian woke to sunlight, pale, soft, almost unreal. His shoulder burned, but the air was warm. He blinked, disoriented, realizing he was lying in a bed. The walls around him were white, not stone. The steady beep of medical monitors filled the quiet. Good, a familiar voice said. You're awake. He turned his head. Arya sat by his side, her hair loose, eyes red from crying but smiling anyway. Where are we? He croaked. A private clinic 2 towns over, she said. Isolde and I got you here last night. You've been out for 16 hours. He tried to sit up, but she pushed him gently back. Don't. You lost too much blood. Isolde. She's fine, Arya said. So is Ghost. They're both downstairs. He relaxed slightly, eyes closing. Nico. Gone, she said quietly. It's over. He didn't speak for a while. Then softly, You saved me again. Arya smiled faintly. You make a habit of needing it. I don't deserve it. No, she said. But you still get it. He looked at her, guilt and gratitude warring in his eyes. You could still walk away, you know. Leave all this behind. She took his hand. Maybe I should. But I'm not. Why? Because for the first time, you're not pretending, she said. And that's enough. Cashin turned his head away, blinking against tears he didn't want her to see. Later that afternoon, Isolde entered the room. She looked tired, her arm in a sling, but her eyes softened when she saw Cashin awake. "Always the dramatic one," she said. "Nearly dying again for a woman." He managed a faint smile. "Runs in the family." She crossed her arms. "We lost a lot of good people. But we have one last chance to make it count." Cashin frowned. "What do you mean?" "I've arranged for an offshore exit," she said. "New identities. New start. But you have to decide, Cashin, are you ready to let the Vale name die?" He hesitated, looking between her and Arya. Arya's voice was soft. "Maybe it's time." He exhaled slowly. "Then it ends today. No more blood. No more storms." Isolde nodded once. "I'll make the arrangements." She turned to leave, then looked back. "You did good, little brother. Don't waste it this time." When she was gone, Cashin leaned back, staring at the ceiling. "It feels strange." "What does?" Arya asked. "Peace," he said. "Like I'm not supposed to have it." "Maybe you're finally earning it," she said. He turned to her. "And you? What will you do now?" "I don't know," she said honestly. "I was a vet who patched up dogs, not men with armies." He smiled faintly. "Maybe you'll start with one broken man and see where it goes." She laughed softly, tears glimmering. "Maybe." That night, when the clinic was quiet, they sat by the open window together. The moonlight spilled across the bed, silver and soft. Cashin reached for her hand. "You could have run 100 times." "I did," she said. "You just kept finding me." He chuckled weakly. "Force of habit." She leaned her head on his shoulder. "What happens now?" He looked out the window, at the world finally calm after endless storms. "Now," he said, "we live. Quietly. No guns, no empires, no ghosts." "And if the past comes back?" she asked. "Then we face it together," he said. "But this time, we choose when to fight." Arya smiled. "And when to stop." "Exactly." They sat in silence, the kind that didn't hurt anymore, the kind that felt like healing. When he finally drifted to sleep, she stayed awake a little longer, watching the moon fade into dawn. The man who had once been a ghost, a storm, a name whispered in fear, now just breathed quietly beside her. And for the first time since the night he knocked on her door, Arya Cruz allowed herself to believe that even the darkest storms could end, not with thunder, but with peace. He fought his demons, and for once, he won. But peace? That's just the pause before the next war. The storm may be quiet now, but you can feel it, can't you? The tension. The promise. The next story calling your name. So if this ending hit hard, drop a fire in the comments, smash that subscribe button, and turn on the bell icon, because what's coming next will be even darker, deeper, and twice as unforgettable. You've survived this storm. Now get ready for the next.